Hey, WokeNFree Nation, Newsly is an audio app for iOS and Android. It picks up web articles about the most trending topics on the web at any given moment and reads them to you in a natural human voice.
For the first time in the history of the internet, the entire web becomes listenable. Browse articles from topics you choose and start playing. Stop scrolling, start listening.
You can follow any topic as specific as you like, from sports, science to Bitcoin, or even one of your favorite celebrities. It will find you the latest articles and read them to you aloud.
And they have podcasts as well. Explore trending podcasts from over 50 countries. Our podcast, WokeNFree, is there too.
Now let's get into the episode. Hi, it's Natasha.
And Khalil.
And we are the co-hosts of
WokeNFree.
Thank you for tuning in to our 290th episode of WokeNFree. If you've been tuning in every week for WokeNFree Wednesday, you know that WokeNFree is all about being real and honest with each other and you. We talk about everything and anything important to us, you, the world, and nothing is off the table. This week we're asking the question, should standardized tests be required for college admission? Being that we both went through that process, I definitely know we have a lot to talk about on this subject, but curious to hear what our listeners have to say. But before we dive deep into the subject, a couple of things to cover. First, have you gone to WokeNFree.com not only to listen to this episode, but have you downloaded it through the Podbean app? If you haven't, please do so immediately, because if you have the app and you download the episode, then you can put in your comments and you can tell us, did you take the SATs? Did you take the ACT? Did you not take them? What are your thoughts either way that where you sit on that decision or that topic? We want to know. So please download the app so that you can put in your comments. Now, if you listen to podcasts on a device that you can't, say, add another app like the Podbean app to it, that's a little bit sad. But the saving grace is that if you go to WokeNFree.com, go on the listen tab, then you can pick your platform of choice where you're going to follow. Subscribe to WokeNFree on other places that you can find us. So we're on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, Google Play. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Pandora. It's a WokeNFree world where most podcasts are consumed. You'll be able to find us. So definitely appreciate the support there. On WokeNFree.com, you can also click to subscribe to follow the show through the Podbean app. And on social, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Pinterest, and LinkedIn at WokeNFree. And if you have 90 seconds, which is more of a statement, less of a question, we would love for you to review the show. So why is this important? We want to know how the show is feeding into your life. So how do you do that? You go to WokeNFree.com, go on the listen tab, and then pick your platform of choice where you want to give us a review. And we thank you in advance for those 5-star reviews. Thank you and goodbye. Khalil, I kick it to you.
I would take 5 stars or 5 thumbs up if they do that too. You can
exactly, or 5 coins, yep.
5 coins. Well, 5 gold medallions would be nice as well.
What is this, Pokemon?
No, I'm thinking of it would just be nice to have those. So
Mario
if the listeners,
Kart then, yeah.
If they want to, send that to a P.O. box that we could pick up.
So now we're soliciting for
no, I'm just saying.
For $5.
No, not dollars, for these 5 medallion coins.
God.
Gold medallions.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, yeah, something like that would be nice to have.
Oh, lovely.
And as the listeners love to do, they want to know more about me and you, right? Mm-hmm. So before we start the conversation, let's share with them a little bit about ourselves. This week we're asking, would you rather jump like a kangaroo or have the speed of a mako shark in water?
Who wants to know this information?
It tells a lot about your personality, though. Like, do you rather
It actually
jump
shares more about the personality
speed?
of the person who created and or shared this question.
Oh, really? Even if the person didn't develop this question on his own?
Yeah.
On his or her own?
His or their own. And the idea was that the person selected this question.
Selected? I mean, I don't know if it's kind of like Thanos. Did he select who lived and who died? It's like that. I mean, it's the same reason. We're going
dark already, huh?
No, but I'm just saying, it's not intentional. It's not like I say pick and choose. This is a good one. It's just all of them, right? I'm better than Thanos. I just say all.
You might have to provide clarification. How high can kangaroos jump? And that might sound like an odd question, but
well, higher than a human, right? I mean, we can just go. We can make that assumption, and then the mako shark is much faster than a human because I mean, there's very few fish that are slow.
Speed up or speed in water? then.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
well, it's not even speed. Well, yeah, I guess you could say speed up. You can jump high, or you can go really fast in water.
And just to clarify, are you still looking like yourself as a human with these abilities?
Of course.
Okay.
I mean,
just curious to know.
Because then I would say, if you want to be a kangaroo, who could jump high?
Kangaroo or okay,
I mean, that's a whole other kind of question. I mean, there's people that are into that kind of stuff, though, right?
We're not going down that.
Okay, we won't talk about them.
You have an obsession with that.
I don't have an obsession. It's just a weird thing that comes up sometimes.
I think there's judgment and weirdness happening there.
I mean, I'm not saying that I'm not saying what they do is weird. I'm just saying it just comes up weirdly.
My answer is
that's all I'm saying.
Speed of a mako shark, as long as I maintain looking human and being human.
We've established that.
Just reiterating.
So you
that
rather
for
the
those,
speed.
Yeah.
You know,
I'd rather the speed of the shark, but to be a human as with the speed of the shark. Yeah,
it's kind of funny because you're in a state with very little water, so I don't know when you're going to use that.
But
I guess it's nice in like little pools
have lakes here.
and lakes. Yeah, that's about the only time you get to use that power. And also, the value
of that is if I ever do encounter a shark, then I would be fast enough, speeding to get away. Yeah,
but it's kind of like, I don't know, if you have the power to like catch a satellite or something. I mean, you're never going to use it, right?
It's a cool power, though.
I mean, it's
But I'm sorry, is there more value to being able to jump really high in the state of Arizona?
No, but it would be like, if I was in Hawaii, I would definitely choose the mako shark ability, or even Alaska. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, I might freeze.
So being in Arizona, you want to jump like a kangaroo?
Of course, because then I could jump over buildings, probably, because I'm a human jumping. Okay, so I'm thinking that it's super high. You do realize
kangaroos are not Superman, right? Like,
yeah, but what I'm thinking is that, all right, kangaroos can jump really high, but imagine if a kangaroo became human, they would jump even higher because they can be smart about it.
In your imagination, sure.
It's just what I assume that. I assume that humans, when they get ability, they can take it further than like some other animals. You don't agree with that? I mean, I think that's a
So that's your answer? You want to jump as high as a kangaroo?
Yeah, I mean, because guess what I can use it for? I can go to the NBA pretty easily.
Okay.
You don't think that could happen if I get this ability at this stage in my life?
So you don't think that your age or your modes or
they won't care if I'm flying over the hoop.
I think they won't care because you'll be a studied specimen in some type of lab.
Well, they would have to catch me. They couldn't, right? Because I could just jump around.
So high.
Yeah, jump around. Jump around. Jump up and up and get down. Jump. Yeah, so and then I can do the new music video to that. Like, see, I can make appearances and stuff. It'd be nice.
Eventually you'll get caught and you'll be put in a specimen in a lab.
But they're going to, don't tase me, bro. You know, that's not
facts.
What this is about. It's about the skill that we choose. And you can choose different skills, and unfortunately these skills, they usually don't end up on a standardized test, do they? They don't ask how high you can jump. They don't ask how fast you can swim.
No, I haven't taken every test, but last time I checked. No.
Yeah, I mean, unless I'm talking about standardized tests. Yeah. We're not talking about the lifeguard or, Coast Guard tests, because then maybe they want to know that kind of stuff. But it would be great for us to go through maybe the history of standardized testing and college admission. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Nice and sloppy, yeah. So
nice and sloppy, you'll tell us nice.
On eCampusTours.com. And for all of you, again, who may or may not be accustomed to the WokeNFree platform, our links are available on WokeNFree.com for the episode. So they shared that standardized college admission tests have been around since the early 1900s. And in recent years, there's been much research and discussion over the use of standardized testing in college admissions because of the new information, this research has introduced that some schools no longer require students to submit the SATs or the ACT scores, but instead offer a test optional policy. And thus, there's been some debate in the news as well. I'm not sure if folks have seen that, but some folks are for it, some folks are against it. So as shared again on eCampusTours.com, they have arguments for and against standardized testing. So their arguments shared that are for it is that they're practical. These tests have explicit directions. They're easy to administer. They're also time efficient and easy to grade. They also argue that this testing prepares students for college. So when students are studying and preparing for the SAT or ACT, they're learning test-taking skills that would eventually help them in their performance in college.
Laughable.
For facts, yep. And then standardized testing offsets grade inflation. So with grade inflation on the rise, many school systems, standardized tests are a way to, I guess, equalize the playing field by consistently comparing student knowledge and aptitude. I think that's arguable.
Yeah. But I mean, there's a truth in that statement, right? Because what if you start a school where everybody gets, above an 80, and then, or you have another school you got to really work for your grade, and they don't give out hundreds,
I think the debatable part of the sentence is really consistently comparing student knowledge and aptitude. I would argue that that's not what's being tested on a standardized test.
Yeah, not
It's about
necessarily.
memorization. And so, I mean, I guess if you want to define that as knowledge, sure. But I would argue there's more to knowledge than memorization. And then aptitude as well. Some folks don't perform well on tests, so I don't think that's the only way to judge aptitude, but and then another argument for it is that this is objective. So compared to more involved assessments, standardized tests are unbiased. For most parts, they are graded by machines, so greater moods and biases will not affect the scores.
That's true.
Yes, however, the bias is...
But there's bias before in the questions that are given, right?
In the questions that are given, and then also we can't forget about institutionalized racism and the fact that not all communities have access to the same resources. So just because two students come and take the test doesn't mean that they both come with the same set of resources and preparation to allow them to, or enable them to be successful on such tests. So,
but that doesn't mean the test is not objective, though.
No, it doesn't mean that it's not objective, but that there are other biases present or other forms of discrimination and or lack of resources and equity that don't allow for the same type of examination to be equally received or equally allow for success for across all communities. So,
yeah, I mean,
it's questionable.
They would have to, it'd be hard, I guess. You'd have to provide everybody with the same...
A different country?
Resource thing.
There's
no country that can do all that. Unless you're a small country. But
it's really hard. It's really hard. I think that we would have to really go back and, cause, for instance, there's some people who start preparing for the SATs in junior high school. Versus,
some people have a really unfair advantage, right? Yeah. They can start really early. So.
And because of resources and financing and what's prioritized in that household or in that community, there's a lot of different factors there. Now, arguments against standardized test taking. Standardized test taking is bias against certain groups. That there's a bias that's shown towards women and groups of ethnic and socioeconomic diversity. In regards to income bias, wealthy students become more prepared for standardized tests through better life experience, such as top schools and test prep tutors. We just talked about that. This standardized test taking adds too much stress to students' lives. So instead of students kind of focusing on a lot of different things that they could be, they end up focusing and stressing over the SATs or the ACTs. And that, detracts from other social activities or other things that they could be doing that could grow them as people or benefit their future. And then also this standardized test taking impedes the assessment of a very important skill. So for the most part, these types of tests hinder any sort of creative or out of the box thinking, which is really a skill that's needed in college and in the workforce, which speaks to kind of what we spoke to before, which is this is not the only game to town. And really, when I think about my collegiate experience, my preparation for the SATs had no impact in helping me better prepare or succeed at Penn State. I would say it actually had no connection. So, interesting.
I mean, that was the funniest thing to me. It said, all right, if you could study for the SAT, you could study for college tests, but I didn't know how to study when I was in college.
Yeah, I mean,
so
you told me you never studied, actually. Which was,
I didn't know how to study at all, so
blew my mind.
That definitely was tough.
Blew my mind.
That was the only thing I could do was barely do homework, but studying, I didn't know how to do that, and the SAT definitely didn't help me with that. Like, that's interesting. They think that you can get that skill that I think college does. I mean, there probably are people who don't study in college as well, but I needed to study because things were different. And you definitely broke down that history for us, I think, really well.
Well, yeah, I mean, eCampus Tours definitely shared really positive for and against arguments. I think that if folks listening have never thought about it, I'm sure they could add to both of those lists. Yeah,
because you kind of explain, because I know a lot of people, they're against the whole, like, standardized tests can have bias and be racist, but you explain what the issue comes down to, like preparedness, that people can get a hand up compared to other people. So.
Yeah, a lot of people try to focus on, well, everyone has the same questions. Yes,
yeah,
but
they try that, and they're like, there's no way.
Before arriving to the test, that's the issue. We're not coming from the same space.
You don't get the same resources and preparing for it, so that's the issue. Mm-hmm. Do you believe schools should abandon the requirement for SAT or ACT for college admission?
The ACTs, yeah. So I would say, for me, my personal opinion is I really like schools that are going down the optional route. So for those students who have already started or spent time in their life, right? Maybe for those who have started in junior high and now they're seniors this year, I would hate for them to have spent that time and then someone's like, whoopsies, you can't take the test. Like they may in fact be ready to take that and actually perform very well. So I wouldn't want to make those students kind of feel like they wasted years of their life. So I think the best approach is to make it optional, but really allow for other types of assessments or opportunities to apply, maybe interviewing as well as maybe a mini project, presentation, capstone project. I think there's a lot of different ways that you could help assess whether a student
limit the applicants. That if you're doing all that, that's a lot of work to review all that, to have. That's a lot. I would
1,000% rather have done a presentation than take
I know
SATs,
you would have, but I'm just saying for college admissions, they would be so mad to try to do all that.
Well, they're already doing optional testing. So I'm just saying this would be the alternative to that option. They don't have to. I mean, I'm not, the arbiter of college admissions. So that's my personal recommendation. Oh, okay. Now, on NBC New York, they shared that Columbia, for instance, Columbia University says it will no longer require prospective undergrad students to take the SAT or ACT in order to be considered for admission. And then there are other Ivy League institutions like that are also kind of suspending the testing requirements. And there's an interesting quote that was shared, I think, by a Columbia rep that said, the holistic and contextual application review process is rooted in the belief that students are dynamic, multifaceted individuals who cannot be defined by any single factor. And their review is going to be purposeful and nuanced, respecting various varied backgrounds, voices, and experiences in order to best determine an applicant's suitability for admission and ability to thrive in our curriculum and our community and to advance access to our educational opportunities. So it's, I think that from Columbia's perspective is exactly what I'm speaking to, is that you have to be more holistic and take into consideration other things that would demonstrate a student's ability to be a culture add, as well as see what type of value they're bringing to the school. Because remember, schools aren't just looking to admit students, but they're also thinking about who's going to come on the other side. Like, who's this alumni person going to be? Is this person going to feed back into this ecosystem? Are they going to be a mentor? Are they going to go out into the workforce and make a name for themselves and further add credibility to the school institutional name and brand? So there's a lot that, it's a two-way street that needs to be thought about, and that has to be bigger and bolder and much broader than the context of a standardized test.
Yeah, I think it doesn't need to be required, but I still think it should be recommended and it can be used. So, interesting. Example is what if somebody does really well on the test? They don't want to just throw that out. I mean, they should be able to use that to say, look, I'm really good at preparing for tests. So that gives me a qualification that not everybody has. But then someone who does terrible on it, then you could just throw it out and they never have to see it, because it doesn't necessarily mean you're bad.
Agree, then.
Yeah, optional. I think optional is the best, but I think but I'm not sure what Columbia is doing. Kind of like, if somebody does take it, can they submit it to them, or they're not even accepting it? I don't know if it's optional.
It's not required. So I think I think how I remember it was done is, once you take it, you can identify if you want it sent directly to the schools or if you want the results that you then convey. So if it's not required, I don't think they're denying it. I think they're just saying it's not required. So for folks, for instance, again,
so they will at least
they can see it, but it's not going to be like, oh, I got a 1600, I'm automatically considered for admission now. I think it's like, nope, we're going beyond that. Like, good for you.
Oh, see, I don't agree with that. I think if you get a perfect score, you need to be considered for admission no matter what.
I mean, again,
to me, that's not like.
What are we aiming for? Are we aiming for students who do really well in a test? Or are we aiming for people who are going to be a value add to the workforce, to the school culture? I mean, if you're getting a perfect score, though, that is like a reflection of your ability to perform well in a test. It is not a performance indicator for how well you'll do in school or what type of human being you're going to be in the workforce.
I would love to meet someone who got a perfect score on the SAT and did terrible in college. Like that to me doesn't seem like a true
most likely
statement.
Not. It's more. It's going to be a correlation to you can do well in college on tests, but are you a person who's going to be a highly, what's that like employable person in the workforce? Are you automatically going to be a good contributor to your communities?
It's not automatic, but it can follow just because you already know to do something really well. Like you can.
But that person could also do really well, and then they could also come and then not have a mental breakdown, right? And not do well in the college experience.
I just think it should be like almost an automatic pass. Not that it is.
See, that type of thinking is why so many people get so stressed out about college and college admission because they're like, if I don't get this score,
but at least you don't have to submit it. But at least that if it's optional, then it's
well, not. Now it changes the game.
Before it was like, if you get the perfect score, you're automatic in. But now, or not now, but for some places, at least it's only optional.
But again, there's a lot of people who do really well in the SATs or ACTs, and they don't get into the school of their choice.
Yeah, I'm not saying really well. I'm saying perfect score. Like that should. Well,
I'd have to do research on like how many people get a perfect score, and then are they admitted to every school that they want, or are they?
That's a good question.
I think for certain schools it'd be like an easy yes.
I don't think you can. So it's kind of like I don't think you could get a perfect score and then have no extracurricular activities, then I don't think it would help you. I think you still got to have like some other stuff. You can't just be like, oh, I got a perfect score.
Yeah, that's something. I don't think schools are just take that and it's like automatic admittance.
And it's like you've been doing, football
community
or basketball
or sports, and
you may have community service. Yeah, you play instrument. It has to be some other stuff to show that you're well rounded. Mm-hmm. So that definitely has to be a part of it. But I just think perfect score. It's something to really take
I
a look
struggle
at.
with that because again,
you don't like that idea.
I don't because I think that we, in our society, we need to children and youth need to understand that perfection is a fiction. And so if we have any standard that enforces the idea that if you hit quote unquote perfection or the top score, that automatically opens doors is a false reality that is not helpful for the real world that they're walking into and going to be joining. So, cause again, you could do really well on an interview and not be guaranteed the job at the end. So,
but there's no perfect interview. Because it's not
but see,
objective.
This is why, but these standardized tests is kind of the beginning part of like them getting into their adulthood and it's not reflective of the rest of how they're going to live their life. So you could have a quote unquote perfect credit score and still not be eligible for something.
Legend. I don't know. That's legendary. I wonder how many people have that.
It's just, again, we need to get away from this standard, ratings of perfection and more so holistic assessments are more
because remember, I'm against just high scores and stuff. But if you're at the top of the hill, I don't know. That just stands out. You don't care about that. You don't think that's like a shining star.
I don't, for me as a person who's getting, I'm a recovering perfection addict. So
well, yeah,
for me, I've had to back away from it because even talking about this right now is giving me anxiety.
Oh, wow.
Because I remember my SAT score and I was not devastated, but I was just upset because again, at that time, I do better in tests since then, but at the time I really struggled and I got over the average that goes for our community, but it's not at the time, at least, I don't know what our current average is, but it's rough. So if more schools were to abandon the SATs or ACTs and or make it optional, what do you think would be the best way that they need to, or what would you say would be a fair way to view applications for college admission?
So now this question seems different though. This is abandoned. When you say abandoned, again, is this?
It could be abandoned and or make it optional. Your choice and how you want to answer.
Abandon or optional?
Yeah, abandon it at all forever, or just say it could be optional. Your choice as to how you want to answer that.
I want to think about if they abandoned it altogether because that would be interesting. Because now we're going to look at what your GPA, we're going to look at the activities that you do.
Any types of
we're going to look at recommendations from teachers and
recommendations, all that.
I guess other people. So, it probably would be better, to be honest, if you just all out
More
abandon
realistic.
it, because now you can kind of get a better view of each student, and you're not going to be persuaded by just this one thing that usually it's like a big factor. It's you got to do good on this SAT or else, we're not going to let you in. So if it was abandoned, you probably get a bigger variety of students that can make it into college and make it past that first step, because now you don't have this like blocker, because I think the SAT and
absolutely
the ACT are blockers for a lot of students. So
especially folks of color and marginalized socioeconomically.
Yeah, this would really help them out. And I mean, I
automatically would have never been considered. I wouldn't have been considered for Ivy League schools with my SATs.
Yeah, because
they would have if that was not a part of the factor.
Yeah, exactly.
Because of who I was and how I presented, as well as the activity and my GPA.
Still,
all of the. But I automatically am denied even consideration. I didn't even apply because I knew that it wasn't high enough.
Because they see that and they're like, well, I think they have like an automatic. That's in the
like
trash
pass.
bin.
And it's like. Well, maybe I could have gone to MIT, or maybe I could have gone to, it's not that I have any issues. I'm a proud Penn Stater. We are all the way, but it's interesting.
You get a bigger variety, I think, of students applying to these colleges, and then by that, you'd have a diverse student body compared to now. More diverse.
And that is exactly why it opens the playing field for people of color, for folks who would have never been considered before, changes the whole demographic.
Now, is that a good thing, though? I mean, people would argue, right? They want it to remain as it is, as it's always been, right?
So it's interesting, right? So the value, similar to like if you think about recruiting, the value to diversifying a company is not just recruiting more people of color or people of marginalized backgrounds, but you also have to have things on the back end in place to support such recruitment efforts. So if we take away and abandon SAT and ACT scores, then to your point, then now you have a whole new population of students being considered. Are they going to be prepared for the type of collegiate experience they're looking into? That school would then have to provide certain resources, maybe even more mentorship or tutoring or access to academic support for this new body of students that would be coming through. So as long as this school does it on both ends, you can't just do it on one end. You have to be holistic in how you do things. So you have to be able to support that new type of student body. But would it overall be a wonderful, equalization and equity, type of equitable process for college admission? Yes, absolutely. And I think it would, but now would all the college professors probably support this? No, because they would be now teaching people they probably would never interact with. And they would probably, folks would not be okay with that.
It would be a different experience for some of them, right?
Yeah, community college teacher. I know that, certain college teachers have certain perspectives and biases, and this again, it would ruffle feathers for sure.
Well, there's some interesting people that like to teach.
There's some
interesting things.
very regimented, very stuck in the mud type of attitude and perspective.
Their perspective.
But it's just because you've been doing something for 50 or 100 years, does that mean you should keep doing it? No, right? There was such a thing called slavery that we got rid of, right? So we gotta. And not even, right? So
that's quote unquote.
Not even.
Slavery's over, quote unquote.
Yeah, not even close. We need to change things in this, and that's why I thought it would be an interesting topic. Really hoping that folks share their thoughts as well.
But see, that's a waterfall thing. You can't just abandon the.
It would be a holistic changing. Yeah, so if you abandon it, then you would have to provide on the back end more academic support resources, mentorship, buddy systems, all sorts of things that would also maybe even additional remedial coursework that would be available for students to be able to support this student body.
Remedial stuff? Why should you give that? I mean, man, you already abandoned the standardized testing. Now you got stuff to try to help bring people up to snuff.
Yeah, because there are people who are, again,
they should just not be admitted into it.
But that's not fair. We can't just say because you're not here that we can't
you might not be ready,
you
though,
up, level you up.
It's like having someone step into the boxing ring if they'd never put on gloves before. I mean, that's not right. They need to get some training in. If they're really that low, that they need the remedials.
I'm just saying that
I
was
believe
an
in remedials
option.
for community. I think community colleges should do that.
What I'm saying is that if the person because just because you're not 100% there doesn't mean that you have to not be considered for something. What if someone is 75% on what they need to be, but they need more support on math? So automatically they can't be considered because there's this one section or one genre that they need a little bit more support on. I don't know. To me, it seems like there should be the option for it, but it would be, the likelihood of this happening is very little.
Oh, really? Of that standardized testing going away? You think that's very little?
For all schools.
For all schools?
I don't think that all schools would go down this route. Maybe not in our lifetime, possibly in maybe 100 years.
Yeah, because once you can like have a automated process that the robots can like do and oversee,
but
then
we're talking about doing something, that's holistic. So as long as that could be done, technologically and without as little bias as possible,
it can be, because you'll just. I mean, that's not easy, right? That's why it doesn't exist now. But
even making applications less biased, right? Like, should applications really have like first and last name? Should they really share school name? Again, it takes away the bias, because that when folks read certain names or when they see that you're from a certain area, automatically
you can't see any pictures though either, right?
Yep, all of that.
That's going to be hard, because I mean,
it becomes challenging because they also like to look at your social media.
Yeah. How would you do? Well, I mean, that's a whole other thing. I wouldn't want them to look at the social media,
but that's a whole thing now.
Yeah, I think that's
for folks who are on social. Does that come into play in your application? And
sometimes it's good that it comes into play though, because these people do some dastardly stuff. Like, they really do.
You're
know
just
that.
Judgy,
no, I'm not. I'm talking about the people that do racist things. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay, gotcha. Well, yeah, I mean that.
I wouldn't want people like that at my college, right? My institution, and I don't think most institutions want that. They don't want someone who's outwardly like that. But again, just because you make a mistake,
does that mean you're deemed unredeemable for life? I mean, people have to be able to come back from things, right?
I know.
People have to be able to be. There has to be, a way to come back.
There should be, but as of now, we don't have like a standard for you need to do this because you wore blackface. We don't have anything for that. You wore blackface. Well, there's
community service, most likely that person would have to do. They would need to do a definitely public apology. They would also probably have to do some type of like DEI type of training and understand the error of their ways. Right?
I would
understand the harm that they impacted.
I would make them work at a jazz club. You don't like that idea, I guess.
When's the last time you've been in a jazz club? Exactly.
But I'm just trying to think of ways to really get them to the core. Like, that's what I'm thinking about.
And utterly, you failed in that regard.
That's a shame.
Womp, womp, womp.
That's a real shame.
It's a Charlie Brown moment for you.
At least it was a nice try. You got to try, right? We always talk about that.
You always got to try.
Yeah. And remember, it's about the journey. It's not about the
1,000%
end game.
Exactly.
So that's what it's all about.
Facts.
Here we go, yo. So what's the scenario? It's scenario time. Scenario 1. Zakira comes from a poor economic background. She took the SATs 5 times, and each time her score decreased. The same thing happened to 5 of her best friends. Does this tell us that people from poor communities struggle with standardized testing?
I really hate how this question's formed. Like, in and of itself, it is really destructive, and it's just, like, demeaning.
It's destructive?
It's bastardizing, really. I mean, it's outright foolish.
Wow, it's that, even though this could have come
it's
up.
irate. It's seriously,
really?
Like, it's
What's wrong with this? It seems, like, perfect.
It seems like it was written on some type of anti-people of color.
Oh, really? Why is it that? It was a poor economic background. We don't know necessarily what the person's race is. Zakira. We don't know.
But then you just said that does this tell us that people from poor communities, like,
people from, again, it's just an economic. It doesn't tell us about, it's not racial.
Other things. It's like you wrote this and then the person's like drinking a cup of tea with their pinky sticking out, like trifling. You are so shady.
You think
and
so?
messy. This question's really messy.
Seems really clean though.
It seems
it's very
like
just straight.
Literally
it's pretty straightforward, and it just hits you right there.
I bet it does. So I would say that poverty in and of itself is not the equation, or is not on the other side of an equal sign of saying poor equals poor test taker or poor standardized test taker. What it means is poverty equals less resources to be able to prepare for such standardized test taking. So for instance, if you come from an economically stressed background, then is it likely that you probably are going to school and you're working? Probably or likely. Is that then mean you have less time to be able to to participate in any type of standardized test taking tutor prep program? Nope. And does it even mean you have the financing to get such tutoring prep? Nope. So it's the poverty that then equates into lack of resources and lack of support, which then in turn leads to the poor standardized test taking. But being poor in of itself is not the equal sign to it. It's just, it lends to other deductions that then lead to why those people are not going to perform as well. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this tells us much. The only thing that this would tell me is that school that they go to didn't prepare them for the SATs, like her and her friends.
And which school does? I mean, that's oof.
My school tried to prepare us for that. They actually had that. They had,
But you went to a private school.
Yeah, they structured that out.
And that costs money.
Yeah, exactly. You're right about that. Yeah.
So in and of itself, you were in an environment that paid for such things. So it wasn't that your school was being special. It was they had extra funding to be able to create such programming.
Well, they knew to put that in there. Yeah, they were trying to prepare us for college.
Public schools have that type of funding to be able to disperse into their student body? Probably not. Since school budgets get cut
I guess it is a funding thing because you gotta be able to have all the books and all that stuff
to be able to get the books, to be able to get the teacher as well as the assignments. You know,
well, the teacher can just use the public school teachers to teach the kids. That's what they did at our school. It was the teacher. It was like they brought in someone from.
But those are extra hours, right? Because between the 8 to 3 or 7 to whatever, they're employed to teach school. So if they're doing extra stuff.
Oh, no, it wasn't extra though. It was during the school time.
So then I don't know how they blocked it out. An hour of that time to be able to do that. Then does that mean how does that?
I don't know how they blocked it off, but either way, I mean, I guess there's extra time in the curriculum.
There has to be then to be able to afford that.
Because they were able just to throw that in, and it wasn't like we had longer days or anything. Okay, yeah. So they did it all during the school day. Like the
more
SAT
funding
prep
allows for such crafty, creative scheduling and resource implementation.
Because I think at the public school, what they would just say is it's movie time, right? Instead of SAT time. Okay, so they would just show a movie.
Need to really get it together.
They break time. Yeah, they break out the checkers for kids to play.
Please don't even speak to. That's not even funny, Khalil. What?
No, they roll up the TV and they put on the DVD.
You have no understanding of what public high school is about.
No, because what they do is they're like, guys, we have extra time. You know, instead of studying for SATs, we're going to watch a movie. I can't speak on
every public school
they do that.
But I know
in my high school, time. They do it too.
I did not have movie time as an hour or whatever. But
they didn't have just a play. They didn't say it's playtime, kids. Here's checkers.
You're asinine.
And here's
absolutely.
Here's Go Fish and Uno. You would have played that. They didn't just give that to you?
No.
Oh, wow. I thought they would have.
No.
Instead of doing, I think that some of them
Shout
have to do that.
Shout out to High School for Environmental Studies, New York City, baby.
Shout out to public schools that do movie time instead of doing SAT prep.
Absolutely
because that should be abandoned anyway, and kids should be able to enjoy themselves a little bit.
Okay.
They should.
You're ashamed.
Scenario Shameful. 2. Anthony is a senior in high school with a one-of-a-kind glowing cotton candy business. He has earned enough profit to pay for his tuition at his dream college, but doesn't want to take the required SAT because he feels his real-world experience speaks for itself. Should he boycott the college to end the test requirements or just take the SAT?
Oh, wow. Interesting. So... I think that here I'm really impressed that in this scenario there's a high school student who has this kind of real strong entrepreneurial vision and has actually taken the effort, the time, the energy to build a business for himself. However, if there's a school that he's interested in that will not allow admission application without his SAT, I do think he should voice his opinion, because in life, unless you say something, people don't know how you feel on something. However, will his voice carry much weight? Not sure about how this fictional school would take it. However, I do think there's always value to sharing your opinion and taking a stand on something. However, if the school at that time had that as a requirement, most likely they'll stick to their guns there. However, what I would say is he may benefit by looking into other schools that have comparable programs that he'd be interested in that may not require an SAT as a part of the application process. So he may consider putting some effort into putting in applications there. And then also, being that it seems a little bit wafty on seeing the true value of education, which, as someone with 7 years of college and grad school preparation.
What makes him seem wafty on that?
Well, because the statement around, he doesn't want to take the required SAT because he feels his real world experience speaks for itself. So to me, it seems like he's already questioning the value of higher education, which is fine.
That part.
Yeah, which is fine. I think there are a lot of people who question it. I would say, if you look at life, the most successful people, financially speaking, don't have college degrees. So, I sit here and I wonder for my own experience, not if those were the right decisions. However, just admiring that they're different strokes for different folks. And so he needs to be clear on why he wants to go to college in the first place, and then pursue schools that would allow more non-conventional applications like his own. And otherwise, that's where I think that's where I sit with that.
Okay. I mean, I think it makes no sense to boycott the college. You should just find a different school.
You don't think there's value to him sharing his opinion or his disgruntledness?
No, he can share it, but I don't think he should go through with the boycott. I mean, I don't know.
It depends on how big of a boycott, what that means. Is that sending an email? Is that
No, it's getting signatures and going to your local media outlet.
But that could provide more press for his business, actually. So it's actually an interesting way of...
It's interesting, but I don't know.
I mean, it's very political.
He's probably going to make an enemy out of the college, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, he might piss people off, yeah.
If he wants to do that, then if he's ready to make this college really upset, then go ahead and do that. But he could just find another college.
True.
And I think he shouldn't do the second option of just take the SAT. He should stand by his...
Oh, yeah, I agree. No, if he really is that vehement, he should not take the SAT.
I think he should stand by it. I don't think he should be forced, to do things
do what you want to do in this role. Yeah.
Especially because you have a lot of options out there, right? It's a lot of options. Don't do it. Scenario 3. Kimoana is a centenarian, someone who is 100 years or older, who wants to attend college with her great-great-great-granddaughter. She never took an SAT or ACT, but it is a required part of admission to the college. Should she be required to take the SAT?
What kind of question is this, Khalil? Get away from me.
That's the type of question it is. It's the one that gets away from you.
Get away. You're so foolish.
Exactly.
What are you foolish person?
This is a good thing.
You're foolish.
This is a good question.
What are you saying? What are you suggesting?
This scenario wraps up everything we've talked about into a neat little package. It really does. It's packaged perfectly.
And does it put it on the Titanic?
It puts you on a Titanic, but but the key is at the end, it leaves you on a plank that is only big enough for one person. Two people can't fit on this plank no matter what.
Thank you.
That's what the type of Titanic it is.
Okay. So last time I checked, the SAT or the ACT had nothing to do with the age of the test taker. So So your question around, because this person's more senior in life, should they be required to take a test? I think that the answer is nothing to do. You have to take the test because it would be a requirement for the process, not because of how old you are.
You've made a great achievement. It's kind of
but that's has nothing. So people who climb Mount Kilimanjaro, should they be required to take the SATs? I mean,
no, but someone who's stepped foot on the moon, you're going to make them take it?
Yes. Who cares?
Because that's interesting.
How does that have to do with
why I say
apples and pears?
And guess why? They give people who never even attended the college, they give them honors honorary degrees.
So maybe she should apply for that.
Apply.
But it sounds like
apply
this
for an
woman
honorary
is.
degree.
This sounds like this woman's interested in going on campus with her great granddaughter.
Yeah.
So if this is, she's looking for the collegiate experience.
Yes,
I can't stand you.
Exactly. You know that's why she should be allowed
foolish.
it. Of all the things that should be a grant. They should grant that her a wish.
Because of your age.
Yeah, that's an achievement, though. I mean, you have to give her credit. How did she do it?
How did you live on Earth this long?
Exactly. You don't value that enough. You're just saying that's like nothing.
I'm not saying that's not
so
nothing.
You know
what I'm saying is it's irrelevant for the consideration.
President of a large country. They
sit down and take the SAT.
They would have to take the test. They can't just attend.
Who cares?
You would overlook everything. Person who stopped the next world war.
You could cure cancer, and you still need to take the SATs. If that's a requirement of school, who cares?
Okay, watch this.
You have to follow process, Khalil.
Watch this one.
Either the process goes away, or you follow process.
Watch this one. All right, one more. This is the only one I think can get you.
This better not be truly foolish.
It is.
Okay.
This is warning you.
You can speak to monkeys? Get away from me.
This is better. You couldn't have guessed it.
Okay.
Someone who's visited the spirit world and come back.
I'm so tired of your foolishness. Yes. Sit down and take either in the spirit world or here. Your choice. Dealer's choice.
So you make it every single person
if
take
that is the process, one must follow process.
Wow.
That is the process.
No matter your achievement.
But this is what I said. It can go away. Am I committed to the process? No, I actually would prefer for schools to get rid of this process so that we could have a more holistic approach to assessing.
So you're like
folks.
no exceptions.
And then guess what? Then your achievement of being centenarian would then be a meaningful holistic insight in that application because that person has seen a lot in their lifetime. They have experienced a lot. They may have participated in some really cool and interesting things in their lifetime, which then would be a meaningful part of their application. But as it stands
your answer to this question is she should be required to take the SAT.
It is a requirement for the college application. One must follow process.
Wow. Okay.
She could not, and they could say thank you and goodbye.
No. or in this one case, we can make an exception.
And if we make that exception, you know what everyone's going to do? Jump up in arms for the
inequity
because they're not 100.
They don't get it unless but I said also they can.
But then this school must be 400-year-olds and older.
Exactly. If you have that, that's insane. What if you're a werewolf? They're not going to let them in. That's nuts.
To the werewolf school.
No, but I'm saying you have an achievement on your hand, and they're just going to overlook that because you didn't take a test. That just seems like.
Process is process, Khalil. I'm all about process. So, I'm a Virgo, and I'm for rules and regulation. And if that's a rule and regulation that must be adhered to,
no matter what,
yes,
man.
Either change the process or engage in it. Your choice.
You don't care if someone's performing practical magic. You're like, nope, you're not getting in here.
Take the test. Or find a new school, love.
Someone finds someone perfects cold fusion. Or
sit down and take the SAT. Someone could be travel time. Good for you. Sit down and take the test. It is what it is. Wow. Either you change process or you live in process.
No exceptions for you.
No, because that's why I say get rid of it. Because otherwise, you come up against this kind of situation where people have really cool or more interesting parts of who they are. And it's completely irrelevant because it goes against the bar of the test. So the test is the test. It doesn't matter who you are. It's like Hunger Games, right? Volunteers tribute or not. But either way, someone had to come from each district, could care less how meaningful you were. It is what it is.
That's technically, I mean, that's almost like the exception because they choose people, but then you volunteer, so distribute. So that's the exception. You're volunteering, so that person didn't actually.
But as of right now, we don't have that exception on the SAT or ACT that says take this test absent if you're 110. I mean, they don't have that as the exception.
But it's, I mean, yeah. So these are the requirements. But if you're a spectacular person, you're getting in no matter what.
Because you know how many people would sue the administrators for that? Like they're going to
sue over that?
Inequitable. It would be discriminatory, reverse discrimination. It would be
reverse discrimination. This person has made an achievement.
One could argue that living on the planet in and of itself may or may not be an achievement. Some people could see that as not an. I agree.
Just living on the
this
planet.
Life is hard as hell. So I would say if you made it to 100, that is a hell of an achievement. But for some people, they would say that's not, because what if for them they just were like in a pod and they were like eating cheese puffs or something?
Okay.
Like
who's doing the pod eating cheese puffs?
Centenarian. Yeah. So like, is that an achievement?
Yeah, still, because you're eating the cheese puffs that keep you alive. And so the ones that make you
the problem
live
is
less.
In this world that we live in,
it's
really hard for everyone to be in alignment with everything. There's always going to be outliers. There's always going to be people who challenge things. So there are some people who would be up in arms.
Well, I know people would be. Yeah, I know some would be.
So that's why I say either change the standard or live up to the standard. It's one of the two.
All right, that's your answer.
And your answer is be 100 and live your best life and not take the test.
My answer is I'm more sentimental. I want her to attend college with her great-great-great-granddaughter.
She could also audit classes and not have to enter the school. And I think you can pay $100 or whatever the nominal fee.
She's got to pay to not get an education.
They could give her an honorary acceptance as an auditor, and she can audit. Don't laugh at me.
No, she's trying to get a college degree with her.
Well, then she has to follow process.
Because they'll walk on stage together and get their diplomas.
Good for her. She has to follow process.
No, so I mean,
and you know that what I'm saying is literally reality of life.
I don't know. I don't know if that's
not for all schools.
I know some.
Again, there are some schools who may give her an honorary degree, but guess what? That's not what she's looking for. She's looking to go to class with her great. But
the ones that do the honorary degree, they might, if the person wanted to attend, I feel they would let them attend. They may,
but usually it's at the end where they're just walking.
I know. Usually they just walk and.
I don't know if they let them just walk around campus like that.
No, they would, but usually the person is like too famous for them to do that.
It's like Cuba Gooding's gonna go and just join Bio 101. Get out of my face.
He's gonna sit down and start taking some classes with people.
They say come at the end and then,
Yeah, just come get this paper we printed.
But she's actually looking for the collegiate experience, so she would have to be admitted to the school, and so that school would have to make that decision. But
they should look at her work. Her work speaks for itself, of being 100 years or older. And that's what it's
arguable, Khalil.
Because I'm thinking about, I'm just thinking from the heart. I'm speaking from that.
I think you're feeling tired and exhausted from life and thinking, wow, 100. How the hell did that happen? And you're like, wow, well, if I admit that, I should get get the Nobel Peace Prize. I should be getting
you could be on the cover of Time magazine or something.
Exactly, for being as old as an egg, right? Yes, I should get
a couple of things.
Can I be on a quarter? All of that good.
You should get a gift just for turning 100 years older.
And from your taxpayers are paying for this? Who's paying for this?
No, maybe you don't pay your tax that year because you turned 100. I know who would be mad at that, but I'm willing to do that. I'll pay. I'll pay into that
for every person who turns 100 in the United States.
Yes, there's not that many. In the United States, especially, they're not that many. So what? You're going to lose.
You think all taxpayers should?
So $1 million? We're going to all chip in a penny or something, right, to make up for the tax laws, or they could actually.
That's very interesting perspective for you.
Wow, you wouldn't want them to have at least
again.
I mean, it could be something else. They could give them a United States quarter or something.
I would prefer something like that because I just think if we're going down the route of not paying taxes, then I think that other people.
I know some people are going to be real mad. Right?
I mean, there's conversations around reparations. I would much rather have reparations, say, for certain communities, be considered
that still can happen.
Down that path.
That's going to be much more. That's actually more expensive than just paying these 100-year-olds or letting them off. That's a lot.
We're going down a different path. I think.
I know you'd have to calculate that, but at the end of the day, you want to stick with requirements, and at the end of the day, I want to have exceptions to the rule.
I don't want to stick to requirements. I'm saying,
or you said if there's a requirement, they're just going to have to follow.
That's most likely what's going to happen. Do I agree with that? No, I don't agree with it. But that's the reality.
This is where I say this is where I say you fight and you bring the media. You really make this happen because this will get to will pull on people's heartstrings. Increase your blood pressure to try to get this happen. Yeah, okay. By any means necessary. This is what I say for this thing. Always, don't let this college push you around. You're not taking that test. You don't deserve to take that test. You deserve to go to college.
Deserve?
Yeah,
no one deserves anything, but apparently this person deserves.
Yeah, 100 years is something to do as a human. I mean, you're not an elephant, so you got to really give it up to them.
Phenomenal.
Like that's something. That's an achievement. You're not like an ancient sea turtle. So how did you do it? We need to know.
Because you're not an ancient sea turtle. Exactly. On that one, I think we are at that time again. It is coming to the end of our 290th episode of WokeNFree. Oof, quite the episode discussing should standardized tests be required for college admission. Khalil, what do folks need to do now?
Come back next week for the new WokeNFree Wednesday episode. Make sure you follow us on social media to follow along in the conversation, and make sure you tune in next week for WokeNFree Wednesday to join the conversation at WokeNFree.com.
If you'd like to get in touch with us, the best place to reach us is our Contact Us page at WokeNFree.com. That's WokenFree.com. You can also find us on social for Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Pinterest, LinkedIn at WokenFree. And all sponsorship or collaboration queries, again, visit our Contact Us page at WokenFree.com.
If you didn't already subscribe, please do share the episode and make sure you come back to join the conversation every Wednesday for WokenFree Wednesdays. Remember, WokenFree is more than a podcast, it is a way of life. Until next time.